Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to see you. How are you?
Well, likewise. I always enjoy talking to you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Appreciate your time. Boy, so this is a very busy time, but I would imagine you must be very excited. J-Lo is going to be there tonight. And once again, for the last time, Kamala Harris, at least running for president, is going to be in Las Vegas. So what are your thoughts on the rally tonight?
Well, I think you'll see a lot of turnout because there's excitement here in Southern Nevada to see her, to see J-Lo, and to just get engaged in the political process. You know, she's been here a number of times. So has Walls has been here. He's coming back on Saturday. Lots of surrogates have been through. A lot of my colleagues from Congress, they know how important Nevada is as a state in this election. They need those votes. And so a lot of people are coming out here to be sure folks are energized and turning out.
So, Congresswoman, I've seen you multiple times. I saw you speak at the Barack Obama rally that was a few weeks ago. You did a great job there. At a few Kamala Harris rallies that I've been to. Tell me if you agree with this. It just seems to me that Harris is becoming even more comfortable with these large crowds. And it seems like she has been improving from speech to speech. And she's looked so comfortable in D.C., the other day. What are your thoughts on that? Do you see her even being more relaxed and more comfortable now than maybe she was a few months ago?
Well, I think you're right. She certainly is convincing people that she's presidential. The other night you mentioned in Washington, standing there in front of the White House with the flags behind her, the speech gave great contrast between herself and Trump. Big crowds turning out everywhere across the country. They know now she's up to the job, and she has proven it time and time again. So I think she is comfortable in her own skin. She knows what she believes in, and she's able to articulate it very well compared to Trump getting up there and doing this kind of dancing and bumbling around.
Yeah, I have to ask you a few questions about Donald Trump, if I may, Congresswoman. I mean, first of all, yesterday he says, I want to protect the women of our country. I'm going to do it whether the women like it or not. He says he's the protector of women, which is a bizarre statement. What is your response to that?
Well, when I go and speak in front of these crowds, I ask the women there, do you want Donald Trump to protect you? Would you trust him to protect you? You know, he's a convicted felon. He's he's a womanizer. That's been proven in court. He wants to do away with Roe versus Wade, so you make your own choices. He's not a big supporter of child care, which allows women to get back into the workplace. I don't know how he thinks he's going to protect women, and they don't know it either. And if you say, I'm going to do it whether you like it or not, that really ticks them off.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Congresswoman, what did you make of that rally at Madison Square Garden? I really believe, I think it's par for the course for the way they've ran their campaign in Donald Trump. But at the same time, Congresswoman, there's a lot of people from Puerto Rico that are going to be voting. I think 450,000 in Pennsylvania alone. A lot of Puerto Ricans that live here in Nevada. Maybe they weren't as keen and they haven't been able to watch a lot of the rallies because we all live busy lives. And I get that. But it seems to me, and you correct me if you think I'm wrong, that this rally at MSG really is going to hurt the Trump campaign as far as voting goes.
There's been a lot of pushback on it. You know, where that comedian got up and insulted a lot of different people, including Puerto Ricans, and that you have seen a number of celebrities who are Puerto Rican ethnically by background come out, condemn it. I mean, and then now Donald Trump's trying to walk it back and said, oh, he didn't know who that comedian was. He didn't have anything to do with it. No, that's not true. You are a reflection of who you have introduced you and speak at your rallies. You know exactly who's out there. And there's been some talk of how they actually censored a few things that he was going to say about women that were just so outrageous. They said, no, we can't go that far. So they knew exactly who this person was.
Right. Now, I've heard you, even on stage, crack a few jokes about J.D. Vance, but they're not like hateful. They're not racist. They're not bigoted. There's a difference there, right? And but I do want to ask you about J.D. Vance as well. He says, I believe it was the Joe Rogan podcast, I could be mistaken, yesterday, where he said he expects he's going to get, quote, the normal gay vote. First of all, I don't even know what that means, the normal gay vote. And number two, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it Republicans that are anti-gay marriage? They want to talk about the gay community as if they're all sinners, the right-wing evangelicals particularly, And JD Vance thinks he's going to get, quote, the normal gay vote. I don't even know what the normal gay vote is. Maybe you can help me understand that. What is he talking about, Congresswoman?
I have a hard time figuring out anything JD Vance is talking about. But, he says it so authoritatively and acts like he's so smart that some people think, well, maybe he knows what he's talking about. But he really doesn't. It's hard to say what the normal vote is in any circumstances, gay or women or Puerto Rican. People make their own decisions and their own choices. I can't imagine that the gay community is going to turn out and be too excited about JD Vance after some of the things he said about taking away people's rights and freedoms. And that includes the right to love whoever you want to, or be with whoever you want to.
Right. A couple more quick questions for you, Congresswoman Dina Titus joining us. We really do appreciate your time very much. I mean, I had the former governor, Steve Sisolak, on the show yesterday, and I love having Governor Sisolak on. And he told me that he is concerned about Nevada. He's concerned that, Harris could lose Nevada. We don't know what's going to happen on Tuesday, but he does think that Harris is going to win the election. I want to ask you the same question. A lot of Republicans have voted early, particularly here in the state of Nevada. I want to get your thoughts on that. And where do you see this thing going? And I guess we'll start in the state of Nevada.
Well, you're right. A lot of Republicans have voted early. Now, you remember in the last election, they said, don't vote early. You can't trust the mailboxes. You can't trust the drop boxes. Vote on election day. Well, then they saw that didn't work to their advantage. So now they're taking advantage of doing the early vote. I don't think there are a lot of new Republicans voting. I think they're just shifted their timeline and voting early. So that's going to start to kind of wash out. But you can't take anything for granted in Nevada. You know this. You've been talking about it yourself. We've talked about it before. It's all about turnout. So you knock every door, make every call, get every last vote up until election day. Because as Richard Bryan taught me many years ago, you run scared or you run unopposed. So we're not taking anything for granted.
Congresswoman, I just want to talk to you about policy here for a moment. You hear a lot of people from the far right that say, we don't know where Kamala Harris stands on policy. And I shake my head. I don't understand that statement because we know where she stands on gun control. We know where she stands on abortion. We know where she stands on the economy and inflation. We know where she stands on the border. She wants to get that border bill, as you know, back in there so Republicans and Democrats could help pass that through. We know where she stands on just about every issue. Housing, the $25,000 that she's been talking about, getting more minorities and startup businesses. She's talked about pretty much every issue that people care about. What is Donald Trump talking about except retribution and him being the victim and calling Kamala Harris names? He won't answer whether, if put on his table, if he's president again, which we both don't want, but if it happens, whether he would ban a countrywide abortion ban bill. He won't even say whether he wants Ukraine to win the war. And they're saying they don't know where Kamala Harris stands on a bunch of issues. I don't understand that, Congresswoman. I really don't.
Well, I don't either. He says I have a concept of a plan, and that has to do with healthcare. And that goes back to when he was president before, and I had to vote 60 times to keep him from overturning Obamacare. They still have a concept of a plan and no plan. And if you look at foreign policy, like you mentioned, Ukraine, we certainly don't know what he's going to do there except cozy up to dictators and try to do away with NATO. I mean, that's pretty scary. But here at home, he's got no plan for health care, no plan for housing. He stopped the border bill that was a bipartisan border bill because he thought it'd be good to campaign on immigration problems. So I think that's just an excuse. We know very clearly where she stands. And all we know about Donald Trump is he's proud that he overturned Roe versus Wade and he doesn't support rule of law.
Correct. I just want to get your reaction to Mike Johnson on that microphone. Somebody recorded him saying that one of Donald Trump's top priorities would be, if he becomes president, to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. And then he did like a backstep to it and said, no, that's not what I said. That's exactly what Mike Johnson said. He was caught on video saying it. What's your reaction to that?
Well, that's exactly what he meant, too. Go back to that 60-something times they've already tried it, and they'll try it again. If you look at the history of this country, excuse me, Social Security, Medicare, and Obamacare are three of the top. I'd add to that the GI Bill, the top programs that this government's ever put in place. It was especially helpful here in Nevada, where we had a very high percentage of people who did not have health insurance. They were transient, they worked part-time jobs, they were in the service industry that some of it didn't provide benefits. So it's been a tremendous help here. It helped people stay on their parents' policy till they were 26. It did away with insurance companies being able to deny you care if you had some pre-existing condition. And it gave you an option to buy health coverage from an insurance company at a reduced rate if you couldn't afford it. I mean, what is better than helping people get insurance? But they will fall right to the insurance companies, right to the pharmaceutical companies. You know, that's their priority. And I don't know how they justify it to the public.
Yeah, I'm totally in agreement with you. Okay, Congresswoman, last question for you. We know you're busy. And speaking of busy, you're going to be on that stage tonight before J-Lo takes the stage. And then hopefully our next president, the vice president right now, Kamala Harris. Give me a little preview for people in Las Vegas or wherever they are thinking of going to this rally tonight. Tell me where it's going to be. And it sounds like you're going to have a live band playing, a popular band playing. It sounds like it's going to be what it has always been at these Kamala Harris rallies the last few months, in my opinion. People are going to be having a good time. There's not going to be bigotry. There's not going to be hatred. It's going to be fun. I know it because I've been there and I've had a good time at these rallies. So just give me a little bit of preview, if you can, Congresswoman, on what's going to be taking place tonight.
Well, that's right. It's going to be outdoors, so wrap up warm. It'll be kind of cool out there tonight. But there will be music. There'll be celebrities. She will give a very upbeat speech like she did in front of the White House. These are kind of her closing moments. So it will be fun. People will be excited, and it'll work to turn people out because they'll be motivated. My speech is going to be focusing on what we have to lose if Donald Trump becomes president. Our human rights, our voting rights, the planet. They'll roll back all our environmental protections. We'll have health insurance to lose. No investment in housing. They'll do away with the Inflation Reduction Act. They've already said that, and that's where we put all this money into solar power that's created so many jobs here in Nevada, plus help to save the planet. So there's a lot at stake, and that's going to be my message.
Well, Congresswoman, thank you for what you're doing, especially, attempting and hopefully succeeding in helping to get Kamala Harris elected, because we all know the threat that Donald Trump presents if he ever gets anywhere near back to the White House. I appreciate you, Congresswoman, and I also appreciate your time, as always, when you do this show, and hopefully we can talk soon. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. And thank you for getting the message out. Young people listen to you, and they're the ones we need to turn out. So keep beating that drum of go and vote. So thank you so much.
You bet, Congresswoman. Thank you. Appreciate you very much. That is Congresswoman Dina Titus joining us. She's been working really hard